Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And just like all the other episodes of Locked On Phillies we've done this year, the Phils are still incredibly hot. They swept a series with the Washington Nationals over the weekend. We're going to break that down and everything you should have learned about the Phillies from that series. Also, we're going to just talk about the unbelievable pace this team is on this year, the first team in baseball to 20 games over 500. And finally, with a series upcoming against the Rangers, will that change anything about a certain narrative? We'll discuss on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. I really appreciate that. Let's jump into today's episode right away because it has been a great weekend for the Philadelphia Phillies. Well, it's Monday now by the time you're watching this, but the Philadelphia Phillies took care of business against the Washington Nationals. They ended up sweeping out the Nationals, a 4-2 final on Friday night, a 4-3 final on Saturday in one of the wins of the year so far. We'll talk about the Cody Clemens game. And then 11-5 yesterday. Nola was solid, but the offense was awesome. And the Phillies sweep the Nationals. There are a lot of references to that tweet from the Nationals account from 2020 where it was beating Philadelphia isn't as hard as Philadelphians say it is. Yeah, you guys have been getting smoked ever since you put that tweet out. So catch these hands one more time, Washington Nationals Twitter admin. I'd be surprised if it's the same person who still handles their tweets, by the way, but not important. Let's talk about the baseball team. The first thing we learned about this team is something we should have already known, but this team's never dead, and I keep saying it. And Saturday was the prime example, right? 4-2 on Friday was more of a Wheeler went out and took care of business and dominated type of thing. And he wasn't at his total best, but he was at his good enough to take care of business against the Nationals level of pitching. And the offense was kind of quiet. And then Saturday, the offense was kind of quiet again. You go down 3-2 in the ninth inning, and the Philadelphia Phillies were down to their final out, and Cody Clemens up to the plate just takes one to the right center alley and hits one out of there. It was a crazy environment at Citizens Bank Park. I mean, the place sounded so loud. And, of course, you hit a game-tying home run with 2 outs in the ninth. The place should go nuts, but not every baseball team has that environment. So credit to the Phillies fans for giving that the respect that it deserved for that moment. And Bryce Harper hits a walk-off sacrifice fly to center field in the bottom of the 10th. And the next thing you know, you're good. And Gregory Soto, by the way, great job of locking things down in the top of the 10th inning with a runner on second. He did a really, really nice job to get the win. 2 strikeouts. Great performance by him on the mound in only 11 pitches. He threw 8 strikes. Just so efficient. With a runner on second to not let him score, you're basically guaranteeing yourself as the home team a win. And that's what the Philadelphia Phillies did. So that was the Cody Clemens moment. Like, that was awesome to see. And how good has he been since he's come up and replaced Trey Turner's spot on the roster? He hasn't been playing in Trey Turner's position, but he was placed in the roster spot. I don't know what you do with Cody Clemens, but we kind of talked about that last year, how he deserved probably a little bit better of a chance, but Harper came back, so there was not the same amount of room for him on the roster. It's just great to see him contributing. That kid might be a player one day. Like, I'm not talking about a bench piece. I'm not talking about, he gets called up sometimes when someone gets injured. No, he might be a bona fide major league player, and he certainly looks like one right now. Let's move on to yesterday, because yesterday, Aaron Nola went 7 innings of 2-hit ball. And guess what? That wasn't the biggest story in the game, because the Phillies, on 12 hits, scored 11 runs. And the guy that, he had 1 hit in the game, 5 RBIs for Alec Boehm. Now, of course, had the big home run in this one, and it's good to see Alec Boehm showing a little bit of pop. Had a sacrifice fly, another sacrifice fly, and then he went ahead and hit the 3-run home run in the 8th to totally put that one out of reach. It was probably still out of reach at 8-3, but considering the Nationals scored 2 runs in the top of the 9th off of Spencer Turnbull, well, you're looking at a situation where any extending to make the game more comfortable made it better for the Philadelphia Phillies. But there are a lot of guys that contributed. Nick Castellanos had an RBI single. in the bottom of the second. We already talked about Bohm, but Cody Clemens had 2 RBI double, then scored in the 5th inning, so accounted for 3 runs himself. Bryce Harper, a 2 RBI double in the 6th to make it 8-3. The Phillies were actually down in this game. It doesn't feel like it when you look at the final score, when you kind of feel back on that game, like, oh, they were in trouble, but they were down 3-2 in the 5th inning. That could have easily been a situation where the Philadelphia Phillies struggle a little bit to produce, but instead they just said, okay, we're going to hit the gas. It's as simple as that. Think about it. You're driving on the highway and a car is kind of pulling up next to you and you're not even racing. It doesn't even feel like a race at this point when the Phillies play teams like this. But it's as simple as, oh, I need to go faster than that guy. A little bit down with the right foot. And next thing you know, you're gone. And that's what the Phillies did in the 5th inning of this one. Then the 6th, then the 8th, and then the game's over. This team's unbelievable. And the other guy we got to talk about, right? Because I know I brought up Alec Bohm's 5 RBIs. He is playing at an MVP caliber level, right? We're not just talking about all-star game anymore for Alec Bohm. He should be the National League All-Star starter at third base. There's a lot of time still to go, but I don't think he could possibly fall off to a level where he's not in major consideration for that. But I don't know if he keeps doing this for 2 more months. Is he going to have a chance at MVP? Could you imagine Shohei Ohtani with what he's doing out in LA right now? He's having an outstanding season, loses the MVP trophy to Alec Bohm, a guy that couldn't field his position like a year ago and had issues about, well, like, I don't know, no power has been a criticism of Alec Bohm. He still hasn't shown that much pop this year as far as hitting the ball out of the ballpark, but he's such a darn good third baseman. Last year, if you had asked me, Austin Riley or Alec Bohm, because we always compare the Phillies and the Braves, right? Divisional rivals, that level of play. I would have taken Austin Riley 10 times out of 10 and not thought twice about it. And that's no disrespect to Alec Bohm. Riley's one of the best third basemen in the sport. But this year, you'd be crazy to not pick Bohm over every other third baseman in baseball. That's where we're at right now on this will come out on May 20th. So, yeah, a pretty darn good start to the year for Alec Bohm. And the rest of the team is just plugging along. Trey Turner goes down, plug in Cody Clemens to the roster spot, move Stott to shortstop or give Edmundo Sosa time, keep winning. JT needs some days, keep winning. Garrett Stubbs played yesterday. Didn't affect the Phils at all that he didn't have a hit in the game. Anyway, this is not the make fun of Garrett Stubbs show. I understand why Stubbs is still on this team. I understand why locker room's important. I think he's a solid defensive catcher. Offensively, that's an argument for another time, right? But offensively, we got to remember catcher is not a position that's supposed to contribute heavily offensively. You could certainly do more. But anyway, not about Garrett Stubbs at this point, but I'm just saying, like, JT goes down, you still win. Schwarber needs a day, you win. Like, Harper needs a day because of migraine, comes back next day, plays, you win. Like, it's just, I feel really, really good about just about everything with this Philadelphia Phillies team. I don't really have any major concerns right now. The only thing that could derail this team from having an outstanding season is injuries. They're the first team in baseball this year to 20 games above 500. They were the first team to 30 wins. They were the first team to 20 wins. It's been kind of top to bottom dominance since that first 2 series stretch against the Braves and the Reds where they lost both those series. Those are the only series losses on the year for the Philadelphia Phillies. Now we're going to talk a little bit about later on in the show the upcoming series with the Rangers that starts on Tuesday. So this episode will be up Monday. Then we'll talk a little bit of Rangers on Tuesday ahead of that series starting. That's going to be a measuring stick series, even if the Rangers are 500 right now. But we'll go ahead and talk about that and break that down. We'll do a crossover with Bryce, who hosts Locked On Rangers. Ultimately, what I'm looking at right now and who the Phillies are playing, I don't care. If you're putting together this type of pace, you're a darn good baseball team. And coming up next, we're going to talk about that pace that the Philadelphia Phillies are on. And what does it mean? Should it worry you? It might sound crazy to say, oh, you should be worried about a team 20 games over 500 on May 20th. But we're going to talk through some stuff because I do think there are some mental gymnastics that some members of the fan base are doing. And I don't know that I necessarily blame you that much. So we'll talk about that coming up as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Policygenius first, though. All right. They're the country's leading online insurance marketplace. Policygenius saves you time and money, two of the most important things in everybody's life. So you can provide your family, definitely one of the most important things in everybody's life, with a financial safety net starting today. Policygenius helps you compare your options from top companies and their teams of licensed experts. They're on hand to help you walk through all of it, okay? Talk to a team of award-winning agents. They're going to walk you through the process step by step, and you can easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Insurance, you don't really think about it till you need it. But another thing you don't think about with insurance is you don't really think about how tough it is to compare a bunch of policies until you try to do it. Well, you don't have to, right? Your Policygenius help, the reps over there and everything, they will help you compare it. They will help you talk through your options. They'll give you everything you need to know about what they think the best option for you is. And with Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. So check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb, or you can click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. I also want to tell you about Yahoo Finance, because you got to go ahead and get your finances and all of that in a row and make sure that's all taken care of. If you need help doing that, well, there's one place to go. It's Yahoo Finance, and here's why, right? Think about this. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? Well, with Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to lend to your entire portfolio with confidence. You don't have to go to this website to check this account or have 40 windows open to check a bunch of different accounts. No, you can just add it all to Yahoo Finance, puts it all in one place. It's basically like, imagine back in the day, you had to balance checkbooks, right? Imagine instead of balancing a checkbook, you had 40 different checkbooks and you just wrote like one thing you purchased regularly in there. That would seem insane, right? Well, Yahoo Finance says this is the right way to do it for the modern era. You can put it all together in Yahoo Finance's setup. So go ahead and check it out. They've been doing this for more than 25 years. They've been the brand behind every great investor for that long. You might be a seasoned investor. You might be looking for that extra guidance. You might be looking just to keep track of what you got. Whatever the case may be, Yahoo Finance has something for everybody. They got a community of over 90 million users each month. This is the place to be. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. Again, the number one financial destination. That's yahoofinance.com. One more time, yahoofinance.com. All right, let's talk about the pace that the Philadelphia Phillies are on, because it's torrid. They have been playing unbelievable baseball. They're showing no signs of slowing down. I don't believe that there's a team on planet Earth that can stop them, but there are teams they can still lose to. They're not going to do this forever, right? It's very hard to believe that they're going to continue to play on like 120 win pace. That's just not realistic, considering that would be a record for most wins in a single season. And hell, maybe the Phillies will go out there and win the most games in the history of a Major League Baseball regular season. More likely than not, they're probably not going to do that. So what do we feel about the pace? I'm not even talking about like sustainability, because I know this pace is not sustainable, but how do they take advantage of the pace that they're on right now? Well, the first step is you got to continue to beat the bad opponents. People have been complaining left and right. This schedule, that schedule. The Phillies haven't played anybody. Braves fans, I see you in all of MLB's posts and all of their tweets and everything like that, saying, well, the Phillies haven't played anybody. Wake me up when they play a team above 500. Guess what? We don't care. Our team's better than yours right now, and I'm not too worried about the narrative outside of it. But my point is, If you don't do this right now, right, looking from a Phillies fan's perspective and from the team's perspective, if you don't take advantage of the lesser teams, the month of July has some tough stretches in it. Right now we're in May. June isn't too bad, but July is going to be the toughest stretch of the season. And imagine if you're, I don't know, I'm just throwing a number out there, 30 games above 500 by the time you hit July. It's possible with the way the Phillies are playing. You don't have to worry about anything in that month. I mean, you're not going to go like 10 games under 500 in a month with the talent on this team, how well they're pitching, all of that stuff, unless there's catastrophic injuries. And I don't see that as a realistic thing. No, knock on wood for that. But my point is, you want to stack wins against these teams when you're playing hot. The Phillies have a perfect storm for getting off to a big buffer. I mean, look at the division. They're 5 games up on the Atlanta Braves right now. Could you imagine if I had told you that before the season? The Philadelphia Phillies have a 5-game lead in the NL East in May. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to hold that way. There's a lot more time to go. So don't buy any banners or anything. It's May. But my point in all of this is the perfect storm of a hot start. You've got a favorable schedule. You've got great pitching. You've got great offense. You've got a focused team. And you can get out to a big enough lead, whether that's in division or wild card spot. I want it to be division. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying you can build a great enough resume by improving your record that when you hit the tough stretch of your schedule, you don't have to worry about it anymore. So as much as I say, well, they don't have to keep this pace all year and they'll still be fine, I want you to be pedal to the metal now if you're the Phillies, because there will be times when the schedule is not as kind to you as it is right now for the Phillies. I'm not denying that they had an easy schedule. Like they have. But I also just don't think there are that many good teams in baseball. And I don't think there's that many stretches of the Phillies schedule that lend to you playing all of those good teams or a bunch of those good teams at once. Like it's not how the schedule breaks out for them this year. And just a reminder, everybody plays everybody. So it's not like, oh, well, the Phillies got to play the Marlins however many times. Like the Braves will too. The Dodgers will get to play the Marlins, not as many times because they're not a divisional opponent, but they'll get to play them too. You're going to play easy teams. So if you're not a Phillies fan, you're watching this just because you're hating on the Philadelphia Phillies being the best team in baseball right now, and you want to whine about the schedule and all of that stuff, let me just remind you, okay? You're going to play them too. As the Braves found out over the weekend, right? They were complaining about the Phillies and who they played. Well, they lost 2 games to the Padres, a team that the Phillies swept. And now they got a doubleheader today to finish out that 4-game set with San Diego. Atlanta does. Who knows what happens if they lose 3 of 4 to a team you took 3 of 3 from? Like that's a pretty darn good indicator that what the Philadelphia Phillies are doing is not as easy as other fan bases would have you believe it is. I am thoroughly impressed with the individual efforts on this team, and we've talked about that before. But the overall pace of this team is something that I did not think was possible, considering I don't know, the early struggles that the Phillies have had in seasons the past 2 years. And I knew the talent was here, but I don't think anybody foresaw this coming for the Philadelphia Phillies. The problem is, do they have a regression coming that brings them back towards the rest of the pack? I don't know that they don't have to. They can keep playing this well, but I think we're going to see it at some point. The good news is, hopefully, it's a minor regression. Maybe they play 500 ball for a week and a half, and then they go back on this pace. Like they'll still be just fine. So that's my thoughts on the pace the Phillies are on. Coming up, we're going to do a full preview of this series with the Rangers on tomorrow's episode. We're going to have that crossover episode with Locked On Rangers, but I want to talk about whether or not that series will change anything when it comes to what you're looking at from what we were just talking about, the narrative about who the Phillies have played and who they haven't. So we'll talk about that coming up as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. First, LinkedIn Sales Navigator. You got to check it out because you might be struggling to close deals. Business-to-business selling is tougher than ever. And that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It's a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers surface key signals such as job changes or which accounts you should prioritize. So it tells you what direction to head in. It shows you hidden allies, things you might be able to use that you might not have known, or people you should be talking to that you didn't think about before, so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform. So you got a lot of information. Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. So right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at LinkedIn.com. Over those 60 days, the Phillies might only lose 4 baseball games. But I'm kidding. That shows you how long of a time it is, though. How funny it is that would even be possible. 60 days, 2 months, free trial at LinkedIn.com/lockedon. That is LinkedIn.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. I'll tell you one more time. Just go to LinkedIn.com/lockedon and get started. All right, finally here. And again, trust me, this is going to be a light dive into this talk about the Rangers series. We'll preview all of this in major depth. Tomorrow's episode will be full preview Phillies Rangers, which will be fun because we'll get to talk about what a World Series team feels like, at least in this era of baseball, since the Rangers are the defending World Series champion. I'll ask this question I'm going to talk about now to Bryce, who hosts Locked On Rangers, who's going to be joining me tomorrow. But will the series with the Rangers change anything? Here's what I mean. If the Philadelphia Phillies go out and win 2 of 3 against the Rangers, do you think the comments are going to stop about the schedule? I'll tell you right now, they won't. The Rangers are 500. I know they're the defending World Series champions, but there's an easy way to explain that away, and that's to say that was last year's team. This year's team, middle of the pack right now. And 500 actually has you more than middle of the pack, better than that. But at the same time, they don't come in with a sterling record to put up against the Phillies 20 games over 500 record. And the series is in Philly, so people complain about that. But we also have to look at it the other way. Let's say the Phillies go out and they drop 2 of 3 to the Rangers. They don't have their best series. It'll be the first series they have lost in well over a month, or a month and a half at this point. But will there be people in the fan base that get antsy and say, oh, this team's only good because they're playing? You'll start to believe a little bit of what the haters are telling you that don't actually root for your team. And I'm here to tell you that that's not the way you should react to this. Regardless of the outcome, even if the Phillies go out and they get swept, and they're not going to get swept, but even if the Phillies go out starting Tuesday and get swept, like, it doesn't change the ceiling of this team. It doesn't change the talent level of this team. It'll barely change the record of this team. They'll still be 17 games above 500. And that's, like, I don't believe it's going to happen. But my point is this. Just because it's the first series that you can kind of make an argument that the Phillies are playing a team that's a quality opponent for a while now, it doesn't make these 3 games any more valuable than anything more than just a narrative. And narratives don't win championships. Narratives don't win divisions. Winning the most games in your division do. Winning in the postseason wins you championships. It doesn't matter what every other fan base is saying about yours, as long as you believe in the ceiling of your team. And I believe in the ceiling of this Phillies team. And after weekends like this, it'd be pretty darn hard not to. But again, we'll talk deeper into how you avoid a setback in this Rangers series as we talk to Bryce of Locked On Rangers tomorrow for our crossover. That's all for today's episode, though. Again, thank you so much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. And I'll talk to you next time on tomorrow's episode.